We've been doing that for at least a week now, haven't we? Let's be honest. It's kind of funny. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Doctor Who Review.
Wow.
I'm Chris.
That was intense. I'm not Chris.
We're not intense, though. We're in our living room, as per usual. If you're looking at this going, hang on, we can't see you. It's a video podcast. Always has been. We're like 40 plus episodes in now, maybe more.
Guys.
Where have you been?
Where you been?
And today we are talking, as we did with Torchwood, retrospective styler about the Sarah Jane Adventures. So this is the third Doctor Who spin-off after Torchwood last, and before that, remember? What?
Tell me, Doctor.
No, not Back to the Future.
Oh.
Although that lyric does kind of fit. Yeah. Oh, he's here. Look at him.
Oh.
He's back. He's on the table. There he is. You only just realised, didn't you? God. After K9 and Company and Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, aka K9 and Company 2.0, pretty much. Like, here's how we do K9 and Company, but good. It's a sequel to Sarah Jane's run on Doctor Who. It's a sequel to School Reunion from Series 2 of the modern run. And it's just bloody great. Stick around, but of course, beware spoilers for certain stories. As with Torchwood, what we did for this video, because we're not doing the entirety of Sarah Jane Adventures as part of this Doctor Who review, same with Torchwood, although more thoughts on that later, we watched some select episodes. So the episodes we're going to go into great detail on are the pilot, Invasion of the Bane. We're going to talk about the Series 2 stories, The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith and Enemy of the Bane, and also the Series 4 story, Lost in Time. So when I started this one, like with Torchwood, I said to Lou, I think what we'll do is we'll watch the pilot, watch the first one, and then I was going to take you into Series 1 with the immediate next story with Revenge of the Slovene.
Just a bit of pretense. I wasn't looking forward to this
one.
one.
No, we'll get into that, don't you? Okay. Like, we were going to do that, but then just, the more I thought about it, I was trying to like streamline it like we did with Torchwood, just pick a handful. So I thought the better one then would be a trickster story, considering the trickster being sort of the biggest enemy of the show, like the biggest big bad to rock up. Not most recurring. I think the Slovene actually pip him by about like one story, because they make a couple of cameos as well, and also variants of the Raxacorrico Phalopatorian race show up in a story.
Yeah.
But I was like, right, what's the best trickster story, hands down? There'll be people in the comments right now going, The Wedding of Sarah Jane. There's a reason we've not mentioned that one, or another certain story from Series 4. More on those in the future.
Zip it.
But The Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith is hands down one of the best stories in the show's run. It's really good. So I was like, well, you've got to watch that. And I knew I was going to show you Enemy of the Bane. And I think as it started, you probably thought we were watching it because it was a sequel to the pilot. So you were like, oh, right, okay, they're paying off some stuff with Mrs. Wormwood.
Yeah.
But there was another reason why I wanted you to see it.
Sure was.
And then I opened it up to you, didn't I? I was gonna pick one, but then I said, like, I'll give it to you. And I just read the titles out, and you asked a little bit about the ones that caught your interest. And as soon as you heard the plot for Lost in Time, you went, that one. That one. And I'm glad we picked it, because again, it's another really good story.
Yeah.
So, my exposure to the Sarah Jane Adventures was being aware that it was happening. 2007, New Year's Day, was when the pilot came out. I don't think I watched Invasion of the Bane on broadcast. In fact, I'm not sure if I watched Series 1 on broadcast. I think I watched it at the end of 2007 when it came out as a box set. I think that was how I did it. I watched it as a box set. I probably caught some episodes going out, but I don't think I saw all the stories of Series 1 until I bought that big chunky boy over there, or maybe got it for Christmas. I can't quite remember. But after that, I definitely watched Series 2, 3, 4, and 5. Partially as a fan, I just made sure I caught them all on broadcast, and partially for 2 of the series because I was working for the channel that broadcast them by that point. So it was one of those shows where if we got the preview copies like a week ahead, I'd be like, we got them in? Yeah? What time's the meeting? okay, I'm just going to be in the edit suite. Bye.
Bye.
And I'll just go and watch some Sarah Jane like a few days before broadcast. In the name of research, obviously, to be like, so I know what I'm talking about when I'm doing the links in and out of them, but also because I was like, oh my god, I'm getting to watch this a couple of days early. Yay! I've always enjoyed this show. I sort of tuned into its tone immediately when I first watched it. Like, I knew what I was in for. I knew the pilot would be a fun feature-length story, but, you know, it's a CBBC pilot, so it was going to be a bit ropey, like either in the CGI or some very stagey kind of direction. Like I was expecting that.
Yeah.
The show definitely does grow stronger in its style visually and you know, in terms of the visual effects and everything as it goes on.
I mean, only having watched a couple of episodes, you can see that really clearly.
But I mean, also like bringing in some of that Who pedigree, like Enemy of the Bane's directed by Graham Harper. You know, Mr. Classic and New Who comes in to direct a Sarah Jane story. It just sort of feels right. It's like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And again, the show, like a lot of kids' TV shows, did not have the budget it deserved, let's be honest. But there aren't any cracks in it. It doesn't look cheap, ever.
Yeah.
I've always adored this show, and that's where our prologue on my perspective ends. Not Chris. Would you like to explain to the viewers your history of the Sarah Jane Adventiad?
I knew of it because obviously, if you're aware of Doctor Who, you're aware of Sarah Jane. I mean, it's the two things that combine. But I wasn't that into it because if you've been watching the series, you know that I am not a huge fan, or I wasn't a huge fan of Sarah Jane. And Christopher had mentioned that whilst we were doing this run, that we'd be watching a couple of episodes from. No, first we were going to watch all of it, weren't we? Sarah Jane Adventures. And then I was
Back in 2018 when we started this marathon, we said like when we get to the spin-offs, we'll watch them in their entirety.
And I was a bit like, no, I don't want to, because I remember seeing it at your house when we were teenagers. Like, yeah, this is great. I really fancy this boy, and I'm going to pretend that I'm into what he's into. Yeah, this is.
Don't ever do that.
Great. I'm dying.
Don't ever do that. Seriously, don't ever do. Be into what you're into. Luckily, there was a lot of things we were both into.
Yes. I didn't pretend to like everything that he does, and still do that. Definitely not.
Have I ever?
Go on.
I was going to say, have I ever pretended to be in love with stuff that you were into when you were a teen, like Twilight, for example?
No.
No.
Not even a little bit.
I'm just like, no. I've got to be honest here. No.
No.
No offence to anyone who's into it. Honestly, more power to you. Enjoy it. But, you know.
It's had its time, and it's been and gone now.
Anyway, yeah. It's having a renaissance as of this recording. Anyway.
So... We Christopher put the pilot episode on, and I was even having having watched Classic Who with Sarah Jane Smith in, I was more like, yeah, okay, all right, let's watch it, but please let's not watch all of it because
it was around Tom that you said, can we not watch all the spin-offs? It's in every episode of the spin-offs. And I went, well, only if you're sure. So I started to structure, because this vidcast is planned, folks. I've got a Word document. It's pages long.
He has.
Figuring out what we're watching, when I'm publishing the videos.
We're on a strict schedule here, guys.
We bloody well are. We bally well are. So I was like, okay, fair enough. And I took out 10 plus videos that would have been Sarah Jane and Torchwood and whatnot, and changed it so that we do K9 and Company because it's one episode, and you can go back and see that. You can go back and watch that on the channel. And then we then I scribbled in that we're doing a Torchwood retrospective, and we'll watch some stories. Sarah Jane retrospective, and a Class retrospective. So that's all happening.
Anyway,
and yeah, so that was about. So it was around the time of early Tom. So we're talking
ages ago.
Yeah, we're talking late 2019.
Are we still on the Classic Doctor as of now? In the videos that have been published.
No. Oh, we're recording this on February the 26th. The most recent video to come out is 2 days from now, and it's the Scream of the Schalke animated one.
Oh, okay.
So next month, the modern series begins.
Whoa, what a milestone.
On the day Rose was broadcast, our first Eccleston video was uploaded on the anniversary. So, huzzah! But yeah, but you know, we've you know, way back when we made that decision. Then we watched some Torchwood. And what happened?
And I did watch Torchwood when it went out. Because I genuinely did enjoy that. As we were watching it, I was like... Can we watch all of it?
But this is when we're watching like a series 2 episode, I'm like, no. And then we started watching some Sarah Jane Adventure stories.
And I was like, no, God, no. This is good. I'm enjoying this. This is wholesome. What? Can we watch all of this?
And I was like, no. Too late. we can't do special treatment. We've got to do it.
I am shocked. I am shocked at how much I enjoyed this. I really am. Sorry, I'm getting chocolate.
I know part of you is like, well, you're biased. You have to like it for built-in nostalgia and professional courtesy. Like disclaimer. I know, and I'm friends with people who made the show, thanks to my job and crossing over and getting to meet them and work with them. They're a lovely bunch. I still touch base with Angela and Danny quite often. Gary Russell, the script editor, is a friend. Like, you know, there are people that we talk to. Like, recently chatted and did a podcast with Russell T Davies about making kids TV out of the Broom Cupboards on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go check it out.
Amazing, guys. Check it out. And
we talk about Sarah Jane Adventures in that episode, inevitably, of course. So if you want the full origin of how the show came about, he tells a pretty good version of it in there and how the seed was planted back when they were making School Reunion. For Series 2 of Doctor Who, and how CBBC wanted to do a Doctor Who spin-off, and the things they were pitching all sounded kind of dreadful, so Russell was like, what about this? And they went, I mean, a show where your lead is an older woman, you sure about this? And maybe a tin dog, if they can get the rights. And it bloody works.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the stories we watched, shall we? Invasion of the Bane, the pilot episode. Maria Jackson and her dad Alan moved to Bannerman Road, their first place since her parents' divorce. Her parents who are getting on phenomenally as well. Like, obviously they're not a thing anymore, but there's no. It's one of those very rare cases in kids' TV where the divorce is not depicted as nasty.
Yeah. Like,
obviously some form of like someone leaving someone for someone else seems to have happened, but it's not it's not evil. Her mum Chrissy and her dad Alan as well are regulars throughout the first series, and they're bloody great. Chrissy's very much cut from the cloth of Russell T Davies mum characters.
Definitely.
And yeah,
lovable but annoying.
Yeah, lovable, bit of a dick, but not a nasty person, and ultimately kind of lovable. I mean, for Christ's sake, she takes out some Tara in her last appearance with a heel jammed in its probing vent. So yeah, they move in, and lovely Maria, played by Yasmin Page, who is bloody brilliant. Sorry, hang on, I'm having a moment. Yeah, Yasmin Page. If you've not seen the film Submarine, watch it. She's brilliant. Also, if you're a CBBC fan, it stars her and Rio Wellard from the story of Tracy Beaker. The point is...
Which one was she in, Tracy Beaker?
She wasn't in Tracy Beaker.
No, the other person.
Oh, Rio Wellard. Craig Roberts, who's got my Maroon 5 CD.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's directed by Richard Ayoade. It's a bloody great movie. Anyway. Yeah, we've got it. If you ever want to watch it, it's upstairs on DVD. It's bloody brilliant. Anyway.
Sorry, tangent.
Maria notices the lady across the road's a bit weird, a bit dismissive. Big luxurious house.
She's quite rude, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's keeping people at bay. We know why. She's keeping people at bay. She wants people to get close in case they get in danger. One night, she witnesses this woman talking to an etheric, angelic, glowy alien thing in the garden. which Torchwood viewers would have recognised as one of the, not the same one, but one of the species that rocked up in Torchwood Series 1. In this, it's referred to as the Star Poet, as it also was on the action figure, because Sarah Jane Adventures Series 1 got some action figures, kids. 4 different Sarah Janes, each with a monster. I still have 2 of the Sarah Janes, one's there on the table, and I still have all 4 of the monsters, and the toys are pretty great. The Star Poet's got like a glowy base that makes it light up.
Yeah, that... I'm not gonna lie, was that the only like appearance of it?
In Sarah Jane, yes. Yeah.
It seems strange to make a toy out of it.
Well, I think it was more a case of like it's an alien that showed up in 2 shows. So, you know what I mean? Like the chance of it possibly being reused again as a visual effect was quite high. It wasn't in the end, but you know.
That figure, I remember you had it out in your room when we were younger. And it always really freaked me out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, bless you.
I thought it was a villain.
I should go and well, it was in Torchwood. I should probably go and get it out of the box, shouldn't I? I'm not going to.
Why? Because you want to scare me?
Yes! So, that's the Star Poet.
Okay.
And they also released, the other toys came with the Grask, which, if you watched our Christmas Invasion episode, the Grask toy was on display during that one. The baby Slovene, who's over there, tucked between the box sets. It was always on my shelf because it's such a great little action figure.
It is.
And the other one is General Kudlak, who you didn't see, but he's in a Series 1 story called Warriors of the Kudlak, set in a laser tag arena.
I didn't see the one with the baby Slovene.
You didn't, no? But you've seen the baby Slovene.
I have seen it, yeah. I've seen it running down a corridor, which was quite
weirdly cute. Oh, I think it was cute. Anyway, point is, she knows that the lady across the road deals with aliens. But then she is accosted. I think the actual word is befriended, but I'm going to say accosted by Kelsey Harper, who just rocks up. He's like, "You're the new girl. Hey, you're brilliant. Come to this factory with me.
Hey, I'm going to barge in your house.
I'm going to barge into your life." Kelsey's an odd one. She only stars in Invasion of the Bane, and she's just very, very obnoxious. Now, that's how she's written, but it is just kind of like, Jesus Christ, like...
This is a bit full on.
Yeah, and there's different stories as to why the character didn't carry on beyond this, but the most sort of accepted one is that she was just very, brash. And instead of like massively mellowing the character with no explanation between the New Year's Day special and the first series, they chose to just like remove the character and introduce a new friend for Maria.
I think that was probably a good idea because I think they were such polar opposites.
Yeah, you did spend it going, why is Maria hanging out with you?
Yeah.
She's not. Yeah. You just kind of arrived in her life.
Yeah.
Whereas Maria and Clyde meeting at school in Revenge of the Slovene and still having like a clash of personalities feels way more organic in that one and natural. And it means we got Clyde. So
no, I didn't see that one. So.
We've got Clyde Langer as a result of Kelsey not carrying on. So I'm happy about that. But it's all to do with the Bubble Shock Factory. Drink it! Sorry, has to be said. You got an extra surprise watching that opening commercial, didn't you?
Yeah, I did! And I didn't realise who it was at first.
So CBBC fans will recognise this face as well if they were watching CBBC around sort of the era that I worked on and whatnot. Sydney Ray White, a mate of ours, appears in the Bubble Shock commercial at the beginning and throughout the episode on bloody posters and TVs all throughout the factory and everything. If you're a CBBC viewer of sort of my era, she was Erin in the Young Dracula reboot. If you're a fan of good comedy, she was Gwen in Uncle on BBC Three, which is one of my favourite things to come out of BBC Three in forever. And most of that is down to Con O'Neill playing her dad, being brilliant. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so good. And he's always good in everything.
Yeah,
Chernobyl,
really good actor,
like Cucumber, he's so good. But, the Bubble Shock commercials, they're just playing throughout the thing. And in the first couple of minutes, I was like, just before it started, I went, one of our mates is in the first couple of minutes. Anyway, enjoy. You're like, wait, what?
I thought it was Barney.
Why? It's because he'd done cameos for stuff for Tully Doctor Who and everything. No.
That's why I was looking at for Barney. I was like,
no, but you do get Connie Hook and Gethin Jones making a cameo in this, advertising Bubble Shock on Blue Pizza.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. I know we're not supposed to advertise, but it's just so good. Bubble Shock.
Seeing Connie Hook on a Blue Pizza stage was like, oh my god, nostalgia. See,
and less than a year later, she goes on to bloody co-write one of the best Black Mirror episodes ever. But yeah, 15 million credits. The one with Daniel Kaluuya. Yes.
that makes me sweat, that episode, because I'm like...
All Black Mirror makes me sweat.
Yeah, that's true.
But Sarah Jane Adventures makes me happy. Bubble Shock. It's a soft drink that's sweeping the nation, and everyone's kind of like obsessed with it, except for the 2%.
It's organic.
It's organic. What does that mean? Well, it's good for you. What? Is it an energy drink? Is it pop? And I love the whole like you're one of the 2%. The 2% people just don't like it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to crack that. We learn that basically the planet's kind of getting addicted to this drink.
Yeah.
It's starting out in the United Kingdom, but it's beginning to spread. There are factories elsewhere that's starting to ship it. Turns out everyone's getting addicted to this drink because the species known as the Bane want them to. Because that means conversion and basically readying the human race to either become Bane or the rejected stock to become food for the Bane. These are a bunch of cephalopod-esque, like, squiggly boys that have set up shop as the owners of Bubble Shock, run by Mrs. Wormwood, who's sort of like the eldest one of them, like sort of the one working on behalf of the Bane mother.
Yeah.
So not only is the pop... What made you laugh, the squiggly boys?
No.
No? Go on.
I'm just...
What got you?
It's not going to make sense to anybody.
Hit me, do it.
What you did
What?
with Sarah Jane before.
Oh, right.
That made me spit my food out.
I made the toy dance in a very odd way, completely surprised Lou. You've just remembered.
Yeah,
oh
and
God.
I spit my food out. That's how funny it was. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
please.
I'm really sorry.
Tangents ahoy.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I'm the
don't be
tangent queen. I'm so
If it makes you
sorry.
feel any better, you're not the person doing the worst distraction right now. The dog just farted.
Oh, Jesus.
And she's right next to me. She's down here for those watching the video.
I'm really sorry, but
Never apologise.
that just hit me like a wave.
Never apologise. Much like the smell of the fart. So,
No! Ew.
so
Ugh.
Bane has an organic ingredient in it called Bane, which is a secretion of the Bane mother.
Do you mean the drink?
Yeah.
You said Bane has Bane in it.
Yeah, Bane has Bane in it. The ingredient's called Bane.
Oh, I see what you
On
mean.
all the bottles
Sorry.
are like, it
Sorry.
contains Bane. People are like, what's Bane? It's like, it's organic. I love that loophole bullshit as well. Anytime anyone tries to inquire about it, it's just the same couple of answers with no real explanation.
Yeah.
But we've seen that, especially in the 2000s, you saw a massive rise in the, oh, it's organic. And no one ever really talking about
Natural
it. Process.
flavours.
Natural flavour, yeah. So it's quite a nice bit of commentary on that. So, yeah. Long story short, they've got to defeat Mrs. Wormwood and sort it out. But the most unique aspect, the most piloty element of the story is the inclusion of the archetype. They using the DNA of everyone who's visited their factory, they have tried to correlate every possible avenue to fix the disdain that the 2% have for the drink. Because the 2% of people who don't like the drink literally just like, oh God, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else loves it.
Mm.
So they've been sort of scanning everyone's DNA and putting it into a clone body to eventually, like, essentially they're using him as like a DNA tester to figure out where the link is and work it out so that they can iron that out, change the recipe and make sure everybody gets addicted to Bane. And then when that's done and it's spread worldwide, that's when the takeover will begin. Of course, in this, when they rumble, they begin a hostile, small version of the takeover to rush things through.
I think...
and the archetype is a small teenage boy who was born running, and I love all that. You can tell Russell wrote this first one because there's a lot of his kind of like,
tropes.
He was born, well, not tropes, but just sort of that very romanticised kind of sci-fi. Like, who are you? I was born running. What? And you realise that's just his first real memory, kind of, is of licking it down that corridor. Like, oh my God. And yeah, and basically, our main character is Maria. The archetype becomes Luke. Sarah Jane opens her heart and essentially adopts Luke, and because they really tackle the idea of like Sarah Jane's pushed away every aspect of a normal life.
Yeah.
And they don't over-egg the spin-off pudding. They treat this very much as its own thing, but there's a couple of bits in this first one that are like, if you know, you know. And she talks about how like she travelled and saw incredible things with this incredible man, and then it stopped. And ever since, she's been trying to like, she never says it. It's about investigating and saving people and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's like, no, every day since, she's been trying to reclaim that life.
That
feeling. And like the Doctor, by the end of this, she realises the best way to do that is to share it. Like, is to have someone with you.
Well, I think she also implied that when she was having the meeting, that meeting with Mrs. Wormwood, that she'd been trying to figure out. God, it's about them. She'd been trying to figure out what was going on with the company for a while. Like, she'd been writing to them, she'd been emailing.
Because she's still a journalist. As we saw in School Reunion, she's still a journalist. She's just using her sort of privileges and tricks to kind of investigate deeper on some stuff for her own benefit.
So maybe her sharing her knowledge and adventures with other people is helping her essentially get the job done.
Well, by the end of it, like, the only reason this works is because Maria and Sarah Jane team up.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that they managed to save the day. And then Luke utilises his skills and helps him out. And it's like, yay! It's basically a great story of saying, like, hey, Sarah Jane, stop being Batman.
Yeah.
Like, be Batman and Robin. Like, you need other people. Because she has company in her life. She has friends. But she doesn't really. She has an alien supercomputer in the attic called Mr. Smith, which is a supercomputer.
Yeah.
It's sentient, but it's a computer. And that's all it is. And she has K9. As we know, because School Reunion ended with the Doctor giving her K9, a new K9. But K9 isn't around and hasn't been for a year. Because he's been plugging a black hole, like, at the edge of the galaxy. And she's got, like, a window to talk to him through a safe. And he passes by, like, once every few solar storms. So, like, once every few months, she can say hello.
That's so cute.
But also really sad, because you're like, oh. And also, a legal decision, because K9 is not outright owned by the BBC, and they have to make arrangements. Plus, and I think, let us know in the comments if you... No, because I'd have to decide before then. I'll put it out on Twitter. But maybe we'll watch a couple of episodes of the K9 show from Australia, because it's not an official spin-off. But it might be worth having a little look at it. I've heard very mixed things. Yeah. But because of that show's existence, K9 could not show up in this show a lot. He pops in a couple of times throughout the run, and then after that show wrapped up, he appears... It's not the same K9, by the way.
Yeah.
The K9 in that is K9 Mach 1.
Oh.
Yeah. Who...
Wasn't that destroyed?
Yes? I can't remember now. But anyway, yeah, so in time that show wrapped up, and that's when, like, series 4 and 5 of this, K9 shows up a lot more. Because obviously they've gone, oh, sorry. Like, come on, let's put him in this.
Everybody loves him.
Everyone loves a bit of K9, but it's nice to have him in the pilot, 'cause it's sort of like oh yeah, this is a sequel to School Reunion.
Yeah.
The Bane looked fun. CGI is, like, not ropey, but it's more, I don't know, it's... If you're a connoisseur of 2000s children's television, it's very Ace Lightning. It's that kind of sort of, oh dear.
It stands out. It pops from its...
It's because of the lighting and everything. It's such a bit weird.
I thought they looked quite good.
Oh, they're a cool design. And
Really
the Bane
cool
mother
design.
looks brilliant.
Yeah.
But again, that's because she's shadow and smoke and everything, and she just sort of fits in with that vibe. Whereas the Bane do kind of look like you've taken a photo of a room and you've superimposed a graphic of an alien over the photo. They kind of look detached from it somehow.
Yeah.
If
you tell...
But it's a budgetary thing. Do you know
If
what I
you
mean?
told a child to draw an alien...
That's probably what they draw.
That's probably what they draw, with one big eye, load of tentacles.
Yeah. And one that's a tail as well.
Yeah, and I just thought it looked really cool.
Imagine the Bane is a really fun pilot.
It is.
It leads into series 1, which... Oh, go on.
I was going to say, why didn't they try it in America, though? Is what I'm thinking.
They did. She talked about it.
Yeah.
That's where they were spreading next.
I think it was
No, she regrets not starting
Yeah,
there.
why wouldn't you start? Because they would have had global domination by now.
Series goes on. Revenge of the Slovene is a lot of fun. Slovene in a school. So taking the Slovene concept out of Parliament from Series 1 and putting it in the headmaster and deputy head teacher position. And one of the kids also turns out to have been a Slovene.
That's crazy.
In the cliffhanger, which is bloody brilliant. We meet Clyde, and it's about Luke. Because one of the endearing things about the first few series is Luke trying to basically learn what it is to be a teenager.
Yeah.
Maria's a fantastic lead. She really is really bloody good.
Yeah, really good.
Eye of the Gorgon, you've got scary nuns and people turn it to stone. Warriors of the Kulak. Laser Tag Arena turns out to be a recruitment for an aliens war war fleet.
That's a cool idea.
Whatever happened to Sarah Jane Smith? One day Maria wakes up and Sarah Jane doesn't live across the road anymore, but another woman does. And Clyde doesn't remember Sarah Jane, and Luke doesn't exist, and what's going on? This is weird. Why does Maria remember her and no one else does? The first full appearance of the Trickster, a being who basically causes chaos by removing elements, but he can't do it on his own. He doesn't exist on our plane. He's out of reach.
Yeah.
So the way he does things is he's sort of like a dark genie devil kind of figure. He makes a deal with someone else, and they
kind of like do his bidding. Almost, yeah.
So he approaches Sarah Jane's childhood friend when Sarah Jane's childhood friend died falling off a pier when they were kids, and basically asks her to switch it round if she agrees, and she does, and then it's her friend who ends up here. So it's about a woman trying to cling on to a life she suddenly had.
So Sarah Jane dies?
Sarah Jane dies as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And only Maria remembers, and that sets up the seeds for Temptation, which we watch because there's an artefact that plays into it that is the reason why Maria remembers.
Wouldn't that have huge ramifications for...
Yeah.
Like, time and space, essentially, because she didn't...
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yes. But we really play into that in Doctor Who Series 4. They play on that a bit more. But yeah. And then The Lost Boy, where Luke's parents show up and are like, "You found him, oh my god, he's real, and we thought he was dead," and they really play on the drama of it, the idea and it's like, wait, hang on, but you were grown. And Sarah Jane and Maria and Clyde have to face the realization that maybe Luke wasn't grown, maybe he was taken and turned into this experiment.
Oh my gosh.
And then Mr. Smith goes evil, and the family that have Luke turn out to be Slovene, led by his brother, which is the baby one who survived the events of the first story, and this is all about revenge. And it introduces some new ideas as well, because not only do the Slovene costumes get put to much better use in this show, and they look gorgeous in this show. They've got the darker green colour scheme, they've got the lighter veins on the skin, they've got different colour tags on their the neck collars, so you can differentiate between which one's which when they're in Slovene form.
Oh.
It's like one's got red and yellow and everything. They don't do big CGI shots of Slovene lumbering through hallways. It's like, no, they use the puppets and they shoot them creatively.
Wow.
They look really creepy and stuff.
Why didn't we watch that one?
Well, we can dip in. We watch one on our own time if you fancy watching a Slovene story.
Well,
if we do, we'll watch the Blatherine story. We'll watch The Gift from Series 3 because that's fantastic. So yeah, it's it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Slovene become recurring baddies, and this sort of sets up a tradition that doesn't continue all the way through, but the idea that the villain in the first story tends to rock up in the last story as well.
Right.
Series 2 begins with Last Sontaran. Maria and her dad move. They leave the country at the end of it all. We get a Sontaran fallen out from the events of Sontaran Stratagem, The Poison Sky from Series 4 of Doctor Who. Commander Karg. And he's sort of basically like he's a rogue element. He's one who, he's the Boba Fett of Sontarans. But after the events of all this, he's shamed, and we learn that he buggers off and starts doing bounty hunter jobs around the galaxy for people, because as far as he's concerned, he's screwed up.
What's his name?
Karg.
Karg the Bounty Hunter.
Oh, God. Then we get Day of the Clown with Odd Bob and Mr. Spellman and the Pied Piper and Bradley Walsh's first appearance in Doctor Who. That's great. Learn of Sarah Jane's Fear of Clowns. Some creepy clown mannequins in it. And it's Rani's first appearance. Rani Chandra, with her dad Haresh, who's the new headmaster of their school, and her mum Geeta, who is, she's on another level. She's bloody brilliant.
Was she in? She wasn't in Dinner Ladies, was she? Was she?
Can't remember if Mina was in Dinner Ladies. I think she was. No, Thin Blue Line, Mina was in and stuff.
Oh, Thin Blue Line.
Again, Mina Anwar, she's bloody lovely. I know her as well because of like bumping into various things and mutuals. Like Phil filmed a lot of Scoop with her and stuff. And
amazing.
Yeah, she's bloody wonderful.
Oh, she was great in Thin Blue Line.
Whenever I bump into her, she's always like, "Oh my God, how are you? You all right?" I'm like, "Jesus Christ, hello." She's a proper
extra?
She is in the nicest way.
In a good way, yeah.
And yeah, she like they work, but Rani, Anjali Mahindra's like inclusion now into the show. She joins the main cast after Yasmin Page leaves. Anjali joins, and at first you're like, as I was at the time, I was like, oh, I'm sad to see Maria go, but in the tradition of like doctors changing within one story, by the end of the day, they're clearly like, okay, Rani's awesome. Like, yay, I'm glad Rani's part of the team. And this is the cast pretty much up until toward the end now. Like we lose Luke in series 4. He goes to university after the events of the Nightmare Man because essentially he graduates early. Like he does AS levels through the end of high school, then he ends up going to uni and takes K9 with him.
Yay.
And then Luke pops in quite a bit in 2 of the adventures in Series 5. Series 5 where we meet Skye. And fortunately we don't get to see more of that unit because, you know, Liz Sladen's on time with passing and everything. It means that the story didn't continue. Which is a shame as well, like, just in terms of... Obviously it's a massive shame for the most obvious reason on the planet. But, like, in terms of the show, the new setup, the slight kind of subtle changing of the guard, like Sinead Michael being brought in as Skye, who's bloody good. Like, you know, think essentially of like she's Luke 2.0 in a way. She's a constructed being,
right? So
she needs to be taught. She's learning from everything around her. She may also have powers, and they're having to kind of like raise her in that environment. And it's really sort of put into perspective when Luke comes back and tries to sort of mentor her a bit, but it becomes a like younger sister, older brother kind of natural tension, and you realise how much more human he has become.
Yeah. Because
he's now sort of the annoyed older brother, like, oh, for God's sake, like, do you know what I mean?
Seeing like what he was like at the beginning.
Yeah, it's yeah. Like he's trying to be a Clyde.
I'm glad you knew what I meant then, because I kind of.
He's trying to be a Clyde to Skye's Luke.
Yeah.
But unlike him, who was all wide-eyed and listening to everything Clyde had to say and like basically looking to Clyde as like his teacher and the coolest person ever, Skye doesn't think the same about Luke. So it's sort of it plays into some fun, but we only get a couple of stories of it really.
Where does she live? Does she live with Sarah Jane?
Yeah, she moved in. Fills that void because of course they tackle the idea of once Luke's moved out, Sarah Jane has lost this thing she never knew she wanted, motherhood. She never knew she wanted it. She loved it, and now he's gone.
No, just replace it.
Well, there's a whole thing about that. It's the whole thing of like, oh, so Skye just replaced me then? And it's like, well, no, of course not. Let's talk about the other stories we watch. Last Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. Christ alive.
Yeah.
Some of the best performance in the show's history is in this, and a lot of it's from Liz. Basic premise. Time Fisher opens up, and the gang go to make sure it's alright, and they find a little boy who's run away, and they send him back. Sarah Jane takes him through, and then obviously he's just going to come through and close it. No, there we go.
It's from the past, by the way. Didn't mention that.
But she realises that not only is it from the past, it's the village where she was born.
Yeah.
And it's the year, the month before, at least when she first goes through, her parents mysteriously left 3-month-old Sarah Jane in her pram, drove away, and died in a car crash.
Mm-hmm.
And she was raised by her aunt, who obviously, like, they talk on that, and you realise that, oh, the aunt that she was pretending to be in
what was
the
it?
Time Warrior. Is it Lavinia? I'll look her up. But yeah, so go on, you spell it out, I'll look her up.
So she realises this, and she is trying to fight the temptation of going to see them before this happened. She doesn't want to speak to them, she just wants to see them and kind of figure out what kind of people they were.
Yeah, sorry, Lavinia Smith. Yeah, and Lavinia. that's what she pretends to be in the Time Warrior when she goes to the research.
Yeah. So she's fighting this temptation, and she
even figures out it's a trap. She's like, it's a trap. It's too specific.
And she's like, well, if it is a trap, we've got no way of catching who did it, so I should probably go and check it out.
But we know it's a trap, and that's half the trap taken away, because we know it's a trap, so we'll be careful.
So as she's like convinced herself that it's, she needs to go and investigate it, but she actually just really wants to see her parents, Luke kind of spots her trying to sneak out and goes with her.
And they get trapped there.
And they get trapped!
Aha! A trap!
And they end up going they end up being there on the day that their parents died. And it turns out that it is a trap. And who trapped them? It was the boy all along, who was not a boy at all.
You're trying to remember the alien's name in the story at the time, aren't you?
I am. The
Grask.
Grask.
Yeah. Specifically the Grask from Series 1 that was working with the Trickster, who's the villain of the piece.
Yeah, and this, what's it called?
What?
The
Grask.
Grask. The Grask is doing, again, this Trickster's bidding.
Yeah.
But Sarah Jane is she cannot fight the temptation of going off to speak to her mum.
Yeah.
Because obviously
do you remember what name she pulls out of her arse?
Victoria Beckham.
Yeah.
and
Luke goes with David.
Yeah. So she goes to speak to her.
Just learn about them
and see what kind of people they are, and see
why they moved from London.
If they loved her.
Mm. And they clearly do.
Yeah.
She even sees herself.
Yeah.
And you're like, we've seen Father's Day. Don't touch the baby.
Don't touch the baby.
It'll very well reworded. It'll cause God knows what. Like, be careful. And she is careful.
I mean, she is blinded.
Yeah, well,
she's blinded by a need to figure out.
Well, that's the thing,
and that's what the Taskmaster was relying on.
The who?
Taskmaster? No, wait, that's a show, isn't it?
The Trickster. Bloody hell!
It's the same.
No, it isn't.
No.
Greg Davies isn't the Trickster.
Shut up.
He's King Hydroflax, and we'll meet him in The Husbands of River Song. The point is...
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's in a Doctor Who story. Did you not know? So... Jesus Christ. Well, she does everything she's saying. Like, she just talks to them, gets to know them, and then she leaves when she realises it's getting too deep. But as she's leaving, she spots their car.
Yeah.
The one that they're going to die in. And the dialogue between... Liz Sladen and Tom Knight...
How did she know that it was that car?
Because, obviously there's a report of the crash happening
that
day.
No, he says that he parked next to the memorial.
Next to the memorial, so she knows that they drive off from there. And, Liz Sladen and Tommy Knight do an amazing job at this because you completely buy both sides. You know that Sarah Jane is making the wrong decision, but you understand why she's making it when she uses the sonic lipstick. Can we get a shout out for the sonic lipstick? Genius. I can't remember if they put it in the show, but it's definitely in some of the spin-off material. The Doctor put that in the new K9, so it was a gift. Cute. And then we find out in the next series that she's got two.
Didn't
she has two of them. She has a spare.
Doesn't she use it in School Reunion?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive. When she used the sonic lipstick to shut down the engine of the car.
Oh no, it's in the pilot episode, I'm thinking, sorry.
That's right. You're like, oh my god, no! No! But also we completely understand you, but no! And that's when the future timeline goes wrong. Clyde and Rani are only protected because they're with the object that Maria had in Series 1, the sort of cube that kind of stabilises the reality of it all. So they're unaffected.
Yeah.
Suddenly modern day Earth is a mining plant because the Trickster is using what remains of humanity in this alternate timeline to basically create fuel for whatever he's going to do next.
Yeah, use them as slaves, essentially.
And it's like, what the hell? And it all is counting on the cock-up of it all. The fracture of time means that the Trickster will form in this archway in the past. And then that's when, essentially, he's made Sarah Jane screw everything up.
Yeah.
So he can take advantage of it and use that power of chaos to come through.
Yeah. I was half expecting to see a Dalek, I'm not gonna lie.
Why?
Because they
it was a quarry of people
always
moving
appear
rocks.
when there's like human slaves in a quarry.
But you also get that B plot of like Clyde kind of outwits the Grask a little into confessing that it too is a prisoner. And you realise, because in the last time we saw it, it's just like the trickster's minion.
Yeah.
And then in this you realise, why would he be working for the trickster? And
what does he get out of it?
Oh, he gets to live. Because he was going to die, and he was offered the alternative by the trickster in return for servitude.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, shoot. Now, of course, they give him the cube at the end, so that Grask will never be enslaved to the trickster again, because it can fight back against the reality.
It can kind of hide from him.
Yeah. It's so well done. It's a nice little bit of world building based on the previous story as well. But the biggest shout out in this one goes to Rosanna Lavelle and Christopher Pizzi. Mr. Stephen, as Barbara and Eddie Smith, because they're so good. They're so good in this, and you buy it. And at the end, the fact that Eddie doesn't quite get it, but he can kind of feel it, but Barbara's worked it out.
It's so cute because one of the first things she says to her is like, "Do I know you?" Because she recognises her face.
Which is just sort of regular vibe. She's like, "Oh, I'm sure we've."
Have we met
Anyway,
yet?
hi, yeah, Barbara. It's like,
and like
oh my
as
God.
things are going on, you can see that she's kind of piecing it together.
Yeah.
So at the end of it, she knows exactly who she is.
And we kind of get a Father's Day wrap up. She realises that something horrible is going to happen unless they drive away.
Yeah.
And we don't see it, and I'm kind of glad they don't show it because it would sort of.
Yeah, of course.
It'd be a lot. It's already kind of traumatic as it is, especially because the way they're playing it, like them and Liz play that moment so beautifully when they sort of say goodbye.
Remember, it's for kids.
But yeah, like they drive away, so inevitably they still get into the collision.
I mean,
But
it
it also means that this is, even though time was being affected and things could go wrong, there's an element of the grandfather paradox here.
Mm.
Because what happened, at the age of 3, she was left there.
3 months.
At the age of 3 months, she was left there in a pram, and they drove off and died in a crash.
Yeah.
What happened at the end of this? She was left there, they drove off and died in a crash.
Yeah.
So it opens the question of, is this the real reason things happened the first time? Or is it just horribly poetic and cruel that it's the same things happened? And if that's the case, why did they leave initially? Or was this always how it happened? It's great, and it's so good. And it leads into the finale series 2, Enemy of the Bane, which is a sequel to Invasion of the Bane. Mrs. Wormwood comes back, and we learn about a plan to utilise essentially it turns out it's sort of an ancient being, but then you realise toward the end, no, it's actually like a supercomputer. It's like a murderous thing that would give her the chance to sort of remake things in her image to utilise in Invasion, because she's being hunted down by the rest of the Bane. They believe she failed, so they're going to kill her and eat her.
Gonna eat her.
So it means that Samantha Bond gets to return. Can we give a shout out to Samantha Bond? She's great in those 2 stories. Yeah. She's proper boo hiss.
Yeah.
Especially in the first one where she kind of is like sort of no husband, no children, like, oh, what a sad life you must lead. It's this implication that Sarah Jane's done sod all with her life as far as like the basics of tick that off the list are concerned.
Yeah.
She's so catty. And then in this she's great, rocking up in this like fabulous purple dress and shawl
I know,
thing.
she looks fabulous with the little hood thing.
Also, obviously, played Miss Moneypenny, and her surname is Bond. And at the start of this, they give her a freaking James Bond reference when she introduces herself as Wormwood. Mrs. Wormwood. It's like,
nice.
Yes! Nice! I met her too, she was bloody lovely. I met her at a pilot event at Media City once, we had a chin wag.
Really?
She's really sweet. So you've got that. It's also a sequel to The Last Sontaran, because Karg comes back, because she's utilised his services to help with everything. They really play on the idea of fostering, and the idea of, pitting that sense of attachment between your birth parent and your foster parent and everything. Like she preys on Luke, essentially. Yeah. And I don't think she's being disingenuous. I think she genuinely is quite like, I'm very proud of what you've become.
Yeah.
But it's, as Luke says, it's like, you may have made me, but you're not my mother. like you're not my mum. Sarah Jane is my mum. And it's like, oh my god,
Oh, that's so cute.
marrying your father, boy, but it wasn't your daddy.
See,
I'm Mary Papa Joe.
Going into this, I didn't realise that Luke would be her adopted son.
So did you think he was another random
a
kid?
ward or something?
Well, there's a like Robin. Well, there's a reason why, because otherwise it'd be, why are these teenagers randomly hanging out with this older lady all the time?
Slightly strange.
It's like, well, no, but like it's not strange because you see the friendship organically form.
Yeah.
But to the other characters in the world, it'd be like, why do you keep hanging out with that lady? Where unless of course it's like, oh right, you're friends with her son. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also someone else returns in this story. You didn't know about this, did you?
No,
So,
went a little bit.
At some point, they find out they have to break into units. But so unit gets mentioned a lot in this story.
Yeah.
And you think, oh right, is unit going to get involved in this? And they mention that they have to break into unit's black archive. This is, as far as I can recall, the first mention of it in television stuff, and it's the first appearance of it.
When does it come back?
It comes back in Day of the Doctor.
Oh god! Oh yeah, we had the conversation.
But it's a vault room under the Tower of London in Day of the Doctor. Whereas in this, it's a warehouse facility outside of London.
Yeah.
That's heavily guarded, and you sort of see like spaceships and parts all catalogued and everything. So it could be that this is part of the Black Archive, but it gets its first mention here. Means though to get in, they need like level 1 clearance. So Sarah Jane goes to recruit an old friend.
As soon as she said "old friend," I was like, "Wait, it's either Benson."
It's either Benson.
Benton.
Benton. No,
Benson,
there's not two of them.
Oh
my god!
What was the other guy's name?
I can't believe you're still
Flank.
going on with this
What was his
Benton.
name?
Mike Yates.
Yates.
He's got it Flank. What is wrong with
I was
you?
grasping at straws. And I was like, or it could be, it could be my man.
And then it was your man. It was your goddamn man. I'm trying to find the name of the other character, but Wikipedia's leaving out, so I have to go to the IMDb.
It was one of those moments.
Who is it? Who shows up?
It's the Brigadier!
It's the goddamn Brigadier.
Wow, that was a very annoying voice, I apologise.
Sir Alastair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart. Former Brigadier of Unit, and now an envoy who, as he says, he sort of words it, it's like, you just wheel me out occasionally for just pleasantries. Like they basically call on him to check on some stuff, and that you can tell that he's frustrated that he's not doing anything anymore.
Definitely.
Occasionally they still send him to Geneva, is it Geneva or whatever?
Yeah,
they still send him out there to sort of discuss stuff and then come back. And he's bloody bored of it. And it's sort of implying it's his house from Battlefield still. Yeah. Because big grand hall and everything.
And the front of the house. But it's really, it might be really sad to some people, but I felt the joy spread through my body from my toes to the top of my head. I was so happy to see him.
Your face when it happened was a picture. It was so nice. Especially because the first thing you see of him is him like turned away from camera and whatnot, where he turns around and stuff, and it's just like... Because in this, he shares scenes with, and again I want to give a note to Simon Chadwick, who's at Major Kilburn, who's bloody good in this. Like, he's really good at this two-part. The unit soldier who is sort of the one they have to kind of get around and trick, who's got a bit of a nasty streak, and by the middle of part 2 you realise why. Because he's one of the Bane agents trying to find Mrs. Wormwood. But it's alright. The Brigadier just point-blank shoots him with a gun concealed in his cane. Oh, I love it.
I love him. He's wonderful.
Yeah, he is at his most grandfatherly in this one. Like, full-on tweed blazer, beard, walking stick. When everybody faints in episode 2 from the little Sonic Disruptor, he faints into the chair, because obviously they're not going to ask Nicholas Courtney to drop to the ground.
No.
It's just lovely to see. And the thing is, even though he looks very different from the heyday of the Pertwee era, that voice, oh my, it's just gravelier, isn't it?
It's the eyebrows.
Yes. Oh god, it's so good to see him. It really is good to see him. It's his last on-screen appearance as the character. He passed away a couple of years after, I believe. But it's great to see him. Like, it's really great to see him. It's not the last mention of the character in terms of canon. The last canon mention. The last canon mention we have of the Brigadier.
Oh, okay.
Is in The Wedding of River Song, the Series 6 finale. Yeah. When the 11th Doctor, trying to defy death, calls up the nursing home that he's now at this point in his life, and telling them he's going to, put a glass out, whatever. I'm coming over. And some of the books and whatnot have implied since that the Doctor, in every subsequent incarnation, visited him at least once. And the care home worker who speaks to the 11th Doctor on the phone talks about every night when he'd have a little drink every night, he'd always put out a second glass just in case the Doctor was going to stop by.
Oh, that's
so essentially implying that even as he was getting to the point where he wasn't functionally doing much stuff anymore, and he was because you imagine the Brigadier being someone who definitely would have been like, I don't need to go to a bloody care home. But even when he eventually did it, he was just like, yeah, well, while I'm here, put another glass out. You never know if the Doctor's going to pop by. It's like, God, that is so cute. I love it. We learn a little more about his final days and everything from Kate Stewart later on. But that's the last sort of canonical mention of the Brigadier. He definitely doesn't appear again. He definitely doesn't after that point in any form.
Nope.
We'll get to that one eventually. But this being the final on-screen appearance of the character and the final on-screen appearance of Nick Courtney as the character, because he's done some big finish here and there as well, but it's wonderful. We got it by accident. Originally, it was going to be Martha Jones, because of course Series 2 goes out after where we're up to in our marathon.
Yeah.
It was going to be Martha Jones, who had also appeared in 3 Torchwood episodes that year, which would have been kind of cool. Each of the shows, during the 4th series, the main show, Series 4 of Doctor Who, Series 2 of Torchwood, and Series 2 of Sarah Jane Adventures would have each had a Martha Jones story. That's kind of brilliant. Didn't work out because of Freem Rajaman's availability around Law and Order UK. So, as a sort of, we better change it, they brought in the Brig. And I'm glad it ended up this way.
Absolutely.
It's really sweet, isn't it? It's just sweet to see him. Yeah. It's so good. And also him just name dropping Cyberman. Because he's the only one who ever says Cyberman. Some Terrans, Zygon, all manner of space thuggery. And you're like, yes! I think the Daleks get their first mention from the Brig in this show as well. It's just lovely to see him. It's so good.
So nice.
Other stories in Series 2, Secret of the Stars is a lot of fun. Mark of the Berserker is excellent. We didn't watch the charity episode, the comic relief special from Raxacora Cephalopatorius with Love, where they're briefly visited by a Slovene played by Ronnie Corbett.
Why didn't we watch that?
We'll watch it after this if you want. It's only 2 minutes long. Series 3, get Prisoner of the Jadoon. Highly recommend it. I bloody love Prisoner of the Jadoon. Which is the first appearance of the Androvax, another recurring villain. The sort of the body assimilating, shape-shifting yellow lizard thing. The Mad Woman in the Attic is incredible, and if you ever want to watch another story randomly at some point, that's one. It's brilliant. It's about a kid who breaks into 13 Bannerman Road to talk to the elderly woman up there who lives in the attic, a woman called Rani Chandra. Who tells him a story of something in her youth. And I think
I might have seen that
It's a great framing device, because you begin it who's breaking into Sarah Jane's house? Wait, hang on, that's not Sarah Jane. Wait, that's Rani. Wait, hang on. How long after the series is this?
I think I might have seen that. I think I might have been in when you watched
Maybe.
That.
It's very good.
I do recall that.
The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, which we'll get to. She's not in this episode. The Eternity Trap, that's good, because you've got a character that may or may not be a Time Lord, and it's a haunted house story, and, but he, what do you call him? The, electric voice phenomenon.
Roombas.
No. All the old Zach Bagans crap, it's an episode essentially about that. It starts out as an investigation of a haunted house.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And it's directed by Alice Troughton, who does a great job on this. Actually, Phil Ford writes a lot of these scripts too, and he's brilliant. Mona Lisa's Revenge. Oh my god, Mona Lisa's Revenge is excellent, and it's one of the Saran Jones appearances throughout the shows because she's Idris in The Doctor's Wife in 2011, but she's also the Mona Lisa in this, who at one point is walking around shooting at people with a Sontaran gun because Clyde drew it in the art piece that's up on the wall in the competition in the gallery as one of the sci-fi characters. This thing's holding a gun, and it's a Sontaran gun because they kept it, and he's just drawn it based on that. And Sarah Jane bollocks him for it because it's like, that's a real piece of alien technology. You shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, well, no one's going to know. They just think it's thinking. And then when the Mona Lisa reaches in and just pulls this Sontaran gun out of the drawing. It's great, and she's northern as hell, and it's so much fun. And yes, there is like a throwaway reference to City of Death as well, because obviously, of course, there is. Then The Gift. 2 members of the Blatherine family bestow a thank you upon the Bannerman Road gang. Give them the racweed as a gift, which turns out to actually be a sinister plot. And hey, the Blatherine are not an evil family, but these two are. And they're voiced by Miriam Margoyles and Simon Callow. So Simon Callow making his second appearance in the show. in the shows. Then Series 4 is The Nightmare Man. Julian Bleach, looking like the Joker. Terrifying. Really good. Luke leaves for uni. Vault of Secrets. Not one of the most memorable ones, but interesting because it's an Androvac sequel and also has the Men in Black from Dreamland, the animated special. The same characters and the same actor rocking up in it. Death of the Doctor. We're not talking about that yet. The Empty Planet is brilliant. Everyone on Earth just vanishes except for Rani and Clyde, and then there are these 2 robots doing the rounds, and they have to try and figure out what the hell's happened.
Oh, they don't have to go through some stuff then.
Well, of course, by this series, Luke's not in all this series, so it's mostly Rani and Clyde and Sarah Jane are our main characters. Lost in Time was the next one we watched. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Goodbye Sarah Jane Smith after that. Probably the best finale of the show. Really dark, really uncomfortable. Bloody great. And then Series 5, what we got of Series 5, Sky is a fun 2-parter. The Curse of Clyde Langer is probably, for my money, the best story in the show's history. In the show's run, The Curse of Clyde Langer is incredible. After this encounter with this totemic thing in a museum, not only does everyone not remember Clyde, they're disgusted by him.
Wow.
Yeah, you get to see these characters react with such hatred to him. His mum, Rani, Sarah Jane. It was part of this, it's the curse, it's part of this thing. Essentially, it ends up being a story about homelessness and what happens when you do, what happens when no one listens to you. It's horrible, and it's so good, and it's probably the best story in the show's run. It's brilliant. The only person not affected is Sky, because she's new and all augmented and stuff. So she starts going right, why is this happening? She can't quite fathom why Sarah Jane suddenly is venomously spitting at this guy and trying to get him to leave her house. Even though it's a friend, it's brilliant. It's really, really good. And then the last story was The Man Who Never Was, which has got some fun concepts in it. American tech CEO, billionaire characters, and a fleet of very tiny people that are actually piloting it. Some fun stuff in there. And it's also the return of Luke. That's the story where that's the story where we get the most of Luke and Sky interacting.
Right.
And that was the last one. Obviously not intended to be, but ended up being.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Lost in Time before we wrap up. So when I read out some of the brief synopses, you chose that one immediately.
No, I didn't. I chose the Mona Lisa one first because I thought that concept was hilarious.
Yeah, the painting coming to life.
And shooting at people.
Yeah. And being very northern.
Oh,
how dare you?
Sorry.
You're a Mancunian. What was that fake impression?
I have no idea where that came from.
Just double checking the battery. We should be alright.
But I will take it back.
Please hurry.
So this one, Christopher gave me the title of this one and kind of gave me a rundown of the synopsis, and I was like, heck yeah, let's get this one on. And I don't think I could have picked a better one, really.
It's so good.
It's really good.
Alien activities reported around this shop in a newspaper article. So they take the article and they find the shop. And it's like a knackered old warehousey sort of Eccles Market kind of vibe. Where on the outside it's really? And then you'd go inside and there's a shop and you're like, oh right, okay, fair enough. And it's occupied by Cyril Nrais, the shopkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
So
really
good.
good.
And a regular of sort of Russell's stuff. He pops up in a lot of Russell T Davies's shows. Like he's most notably Lancing Cucumber, and he's incredible in that.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. Oh God. And like he's in Years and Years and stuff. He's brilliant. But so he's the shopkeeper, a mysterious Time Lord, Eternal. It's never completely explained. The character is responsible for the start of the events of Sky, the first story of Series 5.
Oh, he comes back?
Yes and no. Like, he doesn't come back, and he was meant to come back later that series for the finale, and they would have explained a bit more about him and tied him into the finale of that series. But if anyone's curious about that, there's Sarah Jane, Doctor Who magazine special that'll be out there. You probably get it on eBay now, or maybe get in touch with Panini so you can get it as a back issue, and it's about Sarah Jane Adventures, and it looks at series 4 and 5, I think it is, and also has extensive articles about where it would have gone and plans, because they divulge it. Like, they talk about stories like the 13th Floor, for example, which then got reworked into a story for series 2 of Wizards vs. Aliens and things like that.
God!
Do you remember that? You remember the story?
Yes.
Freaking heartbreak of that one, where they end up having the relationship and a child and living this whole life and everything. Oh, it's so
that
good.
show.
Wizards was great.
So good.
So, yeah. So they would have brought him back, but he and his boss, the captain of Parrot, are like, right, here's what's happened. There's this metal forged within the time vortex that essentially has to be put back. Because if it isn't, everything is going to tear apart. I found the places where it's gone to. 3 individual spots in time. And Rani, Clyde, and Sarah Jane show up, so he's like, so you're all going there? Yeah. Because they're like, why don't you do it? It's so important. He's like, I cannot travel in time. I'm forbidden. It's like, wait, what? But it's like, but you can, and you have. That's why you're able to do this. Because by this point, they have all travelled in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
So, or at least travelled through time. Actually, oh my god, that's a good point. They've been in the TARDIS, but I don't know if they all travelled in the TARDIS. They've definitely been in it. And what do you call it? Yeah. Rani and Clyde travelled in time in the last in the Temptation of Sarah Jane Smith. Oh, there we go. Oh my god, all the ones we watched were sequels. Okay, anyway. So the 2 places are the 3 places: the Tower of London in 1553, which is where Rani ends up, is the lady in waiting to Lady Jane Grey, on the night she gets usurped by Queen Mary I.
It's so cool.
Yeah, so that's dark because it's about Rani sort of knowing the history, but now meeting the person and realising that maybe the best thing for her is to stay there, to be by her side at the very least.
Yeah.
Sarah Jane ends up in a house haunted by ghosts in 1889. And there's a girl called Emily who's investigating the house because at 8 p.m. every night there are strange sounds in the house. She's there to investigate.
And she was so good.
She's great, and we learn the reason why she's so obsessed with this is because her mother recently passed away, and she just isn't accepting that that's it.
Yeah, she wants to know what happens afterwards, that she's still here.
So if this house has got proof that there is an afterlife, then she at least knows that her mother is out there somewhere. But it turns out
that's a trope that's,
oh yeah, well it tells all the time. But the unique element to this is that Sarah Jane listens to the ghosts talking and determines, no, these are from the future.
Yeah, because doesn't she say
chill out, and she's clearly having a one-sided conversation. Later on, you get bloody West End star and X Factor finalist Lucy Jones playing a babysitter, and she's on the phone, and basically sometime in the future, a babysitter neglectfully locks the kids in their room to shut them up. The kids have got hold of some matches.
Doesn't she go out to meet this guy?
She pops out, yeah. The kids have got hold of some matches and they burn alive in this room. Yeah. So Sarah Jane and Emily decide that they need to figure out what it is so that they can prevent it from happening, because it's something that hasn't happened yet. They have to listen to it happen again and again. And it's tied specifically to 8 p.m, but not 8 p.m. at time. They wind the clock back and trigger it again.
Yeah.
So that's great. And yeah, in their respective times, a dagger that was going to be used to assassinate Lady Jane is the piece of metal in Rani's time, and the key to the bedroom, which they managed to get, because that's the thing. The key for the bedroom isn't there in 1889. It's in 1990, whatever the future thing is. So Emily's connection to it is the thing that eventually manages to draw it through, and then they almost miss out on it. But the most interesting story of the three, in terms of just, they're doing this on kids' TV, holy crap, they're doing this. Clyde ends up in an English coastal village in Norfolk in 1941. We're alongside George, a boy who's there, played by Richard Whisker. Again, lovely fella, CBBC lot, Friday download. Tracy Beaker
download. I think that's what I know.
Tracy Beaker returns. Danny's Castle, like he was in a boatload of stuff. He basically, Clyde arrives there, meets George, and George is like, the Nazis are here. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, 3 guys have literally just turned up in a dinghy. I've had my eye on it like all morning. I think they've just come off of a U-boat. We have to alert someone. So they go to the church. Problem is, the church is where these 3 Nazi officers are setting up, because they are here not just for occupation. Like, it's not about like getting some intel. This part of the coast is where a lot of the sort of the broadcasting set up to for the radios and everything, getting signals out for the British forces. They're here to utilise that to completely shut it down with something that they've got hold of. They have something from the Führer's personal collection. And they never refer to it as Mjolnir, but they say it's believed to be Thor's hammer. It's this piece of metal that's existed for thousands of years and has ended up in Hitler's possession, because Hitler did have like an obsession with,
he did,
with the occult and mythology.
That's what was really quite unique, and not unique. Sorry, that quite scary about it, because it was quite accurate. Yeah.
Like using this thing, again, we've seen the trope, we've seen it touched on in other fictions and everything. Like obviously, the first Captain America film plays into it quite a bit. The idea that Johann Schmidt and his entire the section of the Third Reich that's become their own thing and become Hydra, it is born out of Hitler giving some money to a division of his military to look into the satanic and mythological stuff and everything. And it's here they're going along with that, and it's sort of, it's not a hammer, but it's like obviously an insignia. It's a piece of something significant, a powerful piece of something or other, and they're going to use it to basically like completely screw up all the broadcasts and like take it down. But the reason why this is deep is because Nazis on a CBBC program. I mean, obviously, it's not like they don't do programs set during the World War. There's been stories over the years for kids' TV about evacuation and everything. But it's more just the direct thing of, these guys are here on instructions of Hitler, and also your main character dealing with them is black.
Yeah.
And they don't shy from that.
No.
I'm sure I read that they had to fight to make sure this stayed in. But
Clyde
is referred to in a very distasteful way by the main soldier.
And what is really upsetting is that he barely blinks about it, and
Clyde,
it's like, oh god.
But then what's inspiring about it is how he just charges them down with like, oh, so we've resorted to name calling, have we? Brilliant. Feel free to do that, because here's the thing: you lose, you are going to lose. And at first they sort of dismiss him as like, oh, shut up, kid. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But then later on when he tricks them with his bomb, aka his mobile or his player playing, was it Pass Out, Tiny Temper, which is brilliant. He again says it to them, and you can see at this point, because they're obviously unnerved by what's going on, like they kind of believe that there's something that he knows they don't. Do you know what I mean? And it's inspiring to see him basically just go like, you are wrong. You are in the wrong. You will be proven wrong. Like, better people will win out. And Danny Anthony does a phenomenal job in this, and Richard Whisker does a great job in this. And all the actors, the teacher who turned out to be a double agent and everything, like, they all do a great job. It's really, really good. And they nick Thor's hammer. So they get back to the future.
That's such a weird phrase. Yeah.
Well, they nick Thor's hammer.
So Clyde in Sarah Jane Adventures, Nick Slorshammer.
But they get back to the future, and like Rani's returned the dagger after again because like her story, the way Ashley plays it and everything, and the lady plays Queen Jane, Amber Beattie. I'm sure I recognise Amber. Again, there's a CBBC connection. She was Jinx on CBBC. There you go, more connections. So, like, the way that ends is horrifying because it's like she has to go. Do you know what I mean? She has to leave. She can't stay as much as she wants to. She has to get back. She gets the dagger to the shopkeeper, and Clyde gets the hammer. And Sarah Jane comes back and doesn't have the key because Emily snatches it last minute because she's like, "No, tell me, like, where are you going? What is this?" And even Emily's like, that last shot you see her, she's like, "I'm sorry." And you realise she's buggered up.
Yeah. Because she really likes Sarah Jane essentially.
Yeah.
And doesn't want her to leave.
Yeah. And then the vortex is going to go all horrible, which is I was fine with that the world's going to end because it meant that Cyril Narai gets to do a bit more of that, like he sort of does his little spell casting thing.
He does,
like,
and it's very
clicking his finger and then casting his hands.
It's very
really
fun,
slick, isn't it? It's proper slick. But that's when a woman shows up, Blink style, on this day, to this shop with this key for someone called Sarah Jane. And they take it from her, put it in the thingy, it's cast back into the time vortex, everything's saved, the shopkeeper's like, well, the captain's work has been done. You're like, hang on, the parrot was in charge. And then they bugger off. Yeah, which I kind of like. They're just like, right, we're done. We'll see you again. Bye. And off they go. You're like, wait, what?
What?
And that's when Sarah Jane talks to the woman. The woman is the granddaughter of Emily, who told her like stories of this when she was a kid, like of this this moment, haunted house and this woman who saved her and all this. And you're like, because even on the rewatch in my head, I was thinking, how does she know to show up here? And that's when, of course, she produces the newspaper page that Sarah Jane had on her to show to Emily that she's from the future.
Yeah.
So Emily obviously kept it. And it's like, that's brilliant.
So smart.
Because Emily's obviously realised she's gone back to that day. Like, I need to get this to her to that day. So she's kept hold of that key ever since that day. Has given it to her granddaughter. Because obviously she's the most likely one to either be there or have a kid or a friend who could go there on the day. It's brilliant. And then at the end, Sarah Jane's just like, I want you to tell me everything. Not only does like she sit down with her and learn everything about her grandmother and herself. It's that thing, I want to hear all about all about your grandmother and all about you. And you're like, okay, that's really freaking sweet as well. But she's like, no, I like, hey, I want to get to know you. What an amazing story! Like you've saved the world. Because she's like, you just saved the world. The woman's like, oh, oh, lovely. Okay. But then, you also get Rani kind of reading into Lady Jane and everything, and seeing that ultimately her story. People do know her story was told. She is seen sympathetically. People know that she's not, some kind of horrid blip within it all. Like
she was trying to take down the monarchy.
Yeah, it's like that's not what it was at all.
Not take down the monarchy. Sorry, trying to steal the monarchy for herself. She was kind of made to do that.
Yeah, and then we also learn that George went on because Clyde tries to sort of dissuade him from
going to war.
Yeah,
because he was gonna sign up, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he does go on, signs up to fight at the age of 16, was decorated as a war hero, and then basically began working in radar technology,
which is
obviously
cool.
Based off of the events of what happened that day. The idea that he understood the importance of radar and communication, pioneers it, and then gets decorated by Queen Elizabeth at the age of 83.
So cute.
And it's just like, God, that's adorable. That's just proper sweet. It's such a good story. It is such a good goddamn story.
And it's a good show.
Yeah.
It is. It's very... It doesn't have Sarah Jane in it as much as I thought it did.
In the show?
Yeah.
Well, it's absolutely an ensemble piece. Always has been. And
which is what I like about it.
The first story does what Rose did so well, which is it chooses Maria as your main character. And then she is sort of the through line of Series 1. But by Revenge of the Slovene, it's sort of equal footing between Maria and Sarah Jane. And Sarah Jane's story arc is sort of getting Luke used to life.
Yeah.
And Maria's story arc is starting school and meeting Clyde. And then by the end of that first series, it's all one story, all 4 characters are your leads.
Mm-hmm.
I adored it then. I still adore it now. I think it's great, like really great kids' TV. I think it's on par with The Parents Show. And I think we're going to have to wrap up because the memory card's blinking.
Oh no!
We will talk more about Sarah Jane in the future. Let us know in the comments what your favourite story is. We will be talking about Sarah Jane again when we get to the 2009 and the 2010 eras of Doctor Who, where we'll return to discuss the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, David Tennant's last on-screen recording as the Doctor during his tenure.
I have seen those ones. I've seen the ones with the Doctor in.
Death of the Doctor, of course, which includes the
It's
return of another old friend.
So it's going to be even better.
What's your favourite Sarah Jane Adventure story? Let us know down below. I would have to stop recording or the memory card's going to die.
Bye!
Bye!